Today we are going to talk about foreign exchange mortgages. A mortgage in foreign exchange takes place whenever the loan is denominated in a currency different from the home currency. For instance, if my home currency is the euro, I might contemplate taking a mortgage in Swiss francs. For example, if the Swiss francs have a cost which is lower, an interest rate which is lower than the interest rate in euros, then it looks like an attractive alternative. The apparent attractiveness of these foreign exchange mortgages resides precisely in an initial lower interest rate in the foreign currency. However, these loans pose an important risk coming from the possible revaluation of the foreign currency. For instance, if the Swiss franc revalues with respect to the euro, over time it is possible that in the end, in spite of having paid lower interest rates, in the end I might end up paying a bigger amount in my base currency, euros, because now the Swiss franc will be more and more expensive to buy. Let's illustrate the situation with the following example. Imagine a 10-year, 100,000 euro mortgage that is contracted in Swiss francs, in the equivalent amount in Swiss francs, at a fixed interest rate in Swiss francs of 2% annually, versus 3% annually, which would be the cost in euros. We are going also to assume constant installments, the French system. So we are going to calculate equal installments all over the maturity, up to the maturity of the loan. We assume that the initial exchange rate is 1.25 Swiss francs per euro. And the question is how the euro debt is affected if the exchange rate changes over time. Well, here in this slide, we just have the same information that we explained at the beginning. This is the initial exchange rate, 1.25 francs per euro. The principal was 100,000 euros at the beginning, and it is equivalent to 125,000 Swiss francs. The interest rate in Swiss francs is 2% versus 3%, which would be the interest rate in euros. Maturity 10 years, installments constant, the French system. Well, we do the calculations, and the first thing we do here is that we calculate the annuity, the installment, using again the French system. So for this loan of 125 Swiss francs at the 2% interest rate, we would have to pay 13,915.82 Swiss francs every year. At the end of year one, let's assume that the new exchange rate is 1.2. It went from 1.25 to 1.2. So we have a slight revaluation of the Swiss franc in terms of euros. Well, let's calculate what is the present value of the remaining installments in Swiss francs. The present value will be 113,584.18 Swiss francs. Now we translate that into the equivalent amount in euros using the new exchange rate of 1.2. So now my principal will be at the end of year one, my principal in terms of euros will be 94,653 with 49 cents. Let's see now how this principal is affected with changes in the exchange rate over the years. Meaning, what will be my principal at the end of year one, at the end of year 2, 3, 4, etc. Assuming that the exchange rate varies over time. Well, we can observe that in this table. We started with an exchange rate of 1.25, and the calculations that we showed before correspond to the case in which the exchange rate goes to 1.2 at the end of year one. So we saw how if the exchange rate is 1.2 at the end of year one, the principal in terms of euros at the end of year one was 94,653 euros. So see what happens, for instance, if the exchange rate instead of 1.2 at the end of year one would have been 1.1. If that were the case, my principal in terms of euros at the end of year one would now be 103,258 euros. So at the end of year one, I will owe more than the initial principal of $100,000, 100,000 euros. That is precisely the risk of this type of mortgages. Of course, as the exchange rate goes down, meaning that the Swiss franc is revalued more and more, my principal at the end of year one is even higher in terms of euros. In this extreme case, for instance, in the case of in which the exchange rate falls to 0.5, my principal at the end of year one will be 227,168, which is more than double than my initial principal of only 100,000 euros. So what we see in this table is, for example, what would happen if the change in the exchange rate takes place in year 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, etc. So we see how the principal goes up as the exchange rate goes down, and as time goes by, we see that, of course, the probability of having a principal at the end, say, of year 5, a principal which is above 100,000, the probability goes down because at the end of year 5, I already have paid a big portion of my principal. So the probability that the principal goes back to the original amount or above the original amount of 100,000 is very unlikely. So summarizing, when the exchange rate falls below 1.2, there is a risk that the principal in euros will increase above the initial amount of 100,000 euros. And this risk falls over time because of what I explained before. Okay, as time goes by, the principal in Swiss francs goes down, so the probability that that principal will go back to an amount larger than the initial 100,000 euros is very, very small. So let's conclude. Loans in foreign exchange seem attractive because they often carry lower interest rates than the home currency. However, it was shown with this example how this benefit brings any risk, the possibility that when the foreign currency revalues, the principal in the home currency rises. And this is basically what I wanted to show you in this opportunity. Bye.